Back in November of '08, Randy Long came, said he had a warrant to get DNA. I said, hey, they already checked my DNA back in '92. What's this? Oh, well, we have some new evidence on the knife. And I'm like, how can it be new? It's already been checked. So I was always suspicious of that. So, but if he had a warrant, what could I do? So I gave him saliva. This was November '08. So May 2010.
You hadn't heard anything since?
No, nothing. Because I'm like, if there is DNA, it's not mine. Fine, take it. Finally done. So then just a year and a half later, when we're just on the computer chilling, and I hear this big smash, and I'm like, what the is that? So, and then I hear all this yelling, and I'm thinking maybe one of the neighbors got into a fight, and they were running in here to get away. And then when I peeked around the corner and saw these armed men, I'm like, I just shut the door. I'm like, what is going on? And they, bust the door open. It's like, get down, And I'm like, so first I thought maybe this was like a wrong drug bust, Maybe they got the wrong house, Then I was like, is this some kind of kidnapping? What? There was all kind of stuff going through my mind, but nothing about, Randy Long coming to visit. And I'm like, I'm going to get an explanation here in 2 minutes, and someone's going to be giving me a big apology. And so the longer it took, then I'm like, maybe this is something to do with Columbus, because I had 20 guys. I was in the back of a big UPS-looking SWAT truck, and I'm like, what is going on? We'll tell you that later. What's going on? They'll tell you that later. So it took me back to the Pell City Sheriff Station, and that's when Long and Hatcher came in. And one thing I want to clear up about that evening, he's saying, I don't know if it was Officer Hatcher or Long, they said, do you know what this is about? And I said, yes. And then they said, it's over, right? They're saying I said yes. That's not true. I didn't say anything. So I don't know why.
Yeah, they did say that. Okay.
They're saying that, and he said when it's over, I just didn't say anything. So that's the start of a cycle of them. Some of those officers testified, kind of embellishing, trying to make me look guilty. Some even straight out lied. But going back to Pell City that night, that was a harrowing ordeal. And then again, I don't have a criminal record. I've talked to the police before. What they say is calm and cooperative. They could have knocked on the door and said, hey, Mr. Lane, we got a warrant for your arrest. I know this sucks, but I need you to get dressed. Come on down. I'd have been like, hey, call my dad, call, blah, blah, blah. They kick in the door, me and my wife on the floor at gunpoint. That's totally unnecessary. So,
yeah, I guess all the neighbors saw that.
Neighbors looking, everybody out the yard. Yeah, it was scary. It was embarrassing.
So after they took him from the house, our buddy Randy Long comes in, and he's asking me questions. Well, did your husband ever tell you about Columbus, Georgia? And I'm like, well, yeah, he always talked positively about Columbus. And I'm like, so what's going on? What are you guys taking him away for? And so I'm kind of like Kareem. I'm thinking, okay, this has got to be a mistaken identity or something, is going to clear up. And he's like, well, there was a burglary and there was an accidental death, and we believe he was a part of it. I'm like,
he said accidental.
Yeah, because I read my journal, matter of fact, this morning, because I was like, what happened that day? Let me see what did I write down. And I remember writing those words, accidental death. Okay. But in hindsight, I'm like, wait, didn't sound quite accidental. But, he said, we think Kareem is a part of this, and so that's why we're taking him in. And, he kept asking questions. Well, he never mentioned this to you? And, at the time, I didn't realize the significance of my responses on this, because, of course, they used that, well, he didn't tell his wife, what was he hiding? But, I said, well, okay, so what happens from this point? And he said, you know, well, we're arresting him. And then the sheriff for Pell City comes in and he says, well, hey, they're going to extradite him to Columbus, Georgia. And from there, you'll kind of know a little bit more of what's going to happen. So several hours later, Kareem calls me, and the first thing he says is like, Carol, I'm so sorry that I never told you about this. This is something that's kind of followed me all this time, but I didn't do it. They've never gone this far with it ever before, but it's a big misunderstanding. This is going to get cleared up here in a few days. That's all I needed to hear. I'm like, you know.
So you never doubted?
I didn't, no, because I'm like, if he were really guilty to me, it seemed like he'd say, you know, Carol, this is going to be a bad situation. We're in for it, and, you know, I messed up. I mean, to me, that seemed like that would be his time to fess up and say something. But he was so confident, this is going to be over in a couple of days.
I'd never been in jail, never been in handcuffs before May 2010.
Yeah.
Jail was, it's not fun. You know what I mean? It's, every waking moment isn't miserable. I mean, there are times of levity, you know, even in any bad situation, war, jail, homelessness. I mean, there's going to be fun moments now. But going into jail was very scary, you know, going into the dock, unlocking this door, it's slamming shut, going to another door, seeing other inmates walking around in handcuffs, deputies everywhere, all these long corridors, everyone's looking at you, you know, being processed, you know. Then they're taking me back further and further and further into the jail. I mean, it's kind of like a dungeon, because I was in the annex section where typically people have high profile cases, or if they were accused of wronging someone who has a relative in the jail, or if they're snitching, or, you know, a witness or something, typically they'll be in the annex section.
I came home one day from work, and there was a camera crew outside of where we lived. And, you know, I'm at home by myself now, and I'm going back and forth from Georgia and Alabama. And, you know, I'm noticing on TV that our neighbors are being interviewed. And when you're dealing with people that don't know the full story, you're not sure how they're reacting and what they're taking from it. And I think for me, what sealed the deal as far as my moving shortly after it happened in 2010 was a neighbor's child came up to me and said, why did your husband kill someone? I mean, he's a little 4 or 5 year old. Really? And I mean, one that hurt me because I said, you know, you knew Kareem, you know me, and you hear this and you're so quick to make a judgment, but not only that, you're telling this to your child. And so at that point, I was through. I was ready to move. I think after that happened, I moved a few weeks later. Okay. Yeah.
So was that right after you got arrested?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I read and watched TV because that's all I could do.
Did you make any friends or enemies or?
I had lots of friends. Now, granted, people are accused of whatever. Most of them are guilty. Let's just keep it real. But when you're inside, for me, it's just how you treat me. I don't care what your charge is. Are you not going to steal my M&Ms? Are you not going to change the channel when I'm watching TV? Can we interact, you know, like adults? I'm fine. And I think that's how nearly everyone in jail treats everyone, no matter what your charge is. You know, we can get along. It's fine. So I did make a lot of friends. In fact, Michael Regis was a good friend of mine. He was different than the typical inmate. I mean, he was smart, cultured, and most of all patient. You know, sometimes when things don't go their way, they want to yell at the guards or act a certain way. He was different. We used to play chess a lot, and he whooped me most of the time. I did get him sometimes. In Muskogee County Jail, you can't have contact visits. I mean, you don't even get a glass. You know how on TV you get the phone, and it's not even that. It's just like a computer screen.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So she may as well just be in Beijing as opposed to in the lobby.
So it's not closed circuit TV.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, she's on the TV screen. I'm on TV screen. Pick up the phone and talk. And sometimes the screen wouldn't be working.
Exactly. It's frustrating because I'm driving 3 hours one way to see him for 30 minutes on a little TV screen, and then I would come down and say, well, the machines aren't working today. And I'm like, you can't do anything for me.
that day and the next few days were surreal. There's no other way to describe them, because just one day back in 2010, my world was changed. It was turned upside down. I was taken out of my ward and thrown into jail, and I was just in annex that whole time. So now that I'm out walking, it was weird. Even when I had to sign some papers to leave, my hand was shaking because I'm like, this is happening. You know, I've been here so long. So to walk out, and they're walking through, taking me through parts of the jail that I hadn't seen, you know, going out to the corridors, take me out front, and they're like, you're free to go. So to see, I think some of you guys out front following me was kind of weird. And then, but you know, it was a happy moment. But you know, when I went into Abercrombie bonding and saw my wife, my sister, my father-in-law, and my father, that's when I just broke down. It was just really emotional.
Ugly crying.
It was ugly crying. You know, so especially when I saw them at the bonding place, it just really hit home that I was out. I mean, I knew it wasn't over, but I'm out. It was a big step for it to be ultimately over. I just don't understand why she brought this to trial. She looked ridiculous at trial. Stacey tore apart the trial, every facet of evidence or non-evidence. He was just all over it. He was all over the first time. So why are you going the second time? And then he did an even better job. He caught people in contradictions, trying to say I was sweating, trying to say there was a flashlight, but none of that's mentioned in the reports. It was such a big deal. They're embellishing. I think she was trying to browbeat her witnesses into remembering anything else. Is there anything you can help us with? Is there anything you can call? You know, you get up there, so they're like trying to do their part, but hey, I don't blame them. It's Randy Long and Julie Slater who's to blame for this big sad circus going on. The first time, I just figured I would have to testify because, you know, I knew the DNA was a lie. I just absolutely knew it, but no one else knows, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know what they're going to try and say in court. Plus, sitting in jail, you just feel helpless, and it's like, I'm just going to testify. And Stacey would be like, well, let's just see, that might not be necessary. So, I guess from a tactical perspective, our case was going well. First day, second day, third day, we didn't feel we lost any days. So it's like, so our mutual understanding was that our case is going good. We're going to have a favorable result. No need to testify. So even though personally I wanted to, but you know, I get it. We're winning. They're losing badly. I'm more likely going to be going
But the
home.
second time you really wanted to, didn't you?
Second time I wanted to because here we are again. And I want to put this thing to bed. And Stacey's like, well, they can come at you. They say whatever they want. I don't have anything in my life to hide, you know, so it's not like, you know, they're going to uncover gang activities or something crazy, or I mean, they can't say anything to make me guilty. And plus, you know, just to listen to them go in on me, I want to get up, you know, so, but Stacey's like, look, again, the trial is going good, you know, there's not much to gain and potentially more to lose for you taking a stand at this point. Now you can. Now he didn't force me not to, you know, he's like, you still can, but we just don't need it. And so, even at the last minute, I still was thinking, maybe I could just testify, you know.
Yeah, Chuck described to me kind of what appeared to be the conversation between you and Stacey right there at the end.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And it seemed as though Stacey was trying to talk you out of it. You wanted to.
Exactly. So I did want to testify, but I let his legal prowess, you know, trump my emotions. And I looked at it from his eyes, you know, we're here to win this case. We are winning this case. We don't need to give them potential for any fodder, you know. So, you know, but if you still want to do it, go ahead. I said, okay, I'm going to trust your judgment. He's been right about everything else these are 4 years. So I took his advice and didn't testify.
We do have some friends that have some theories about who did it, and a lot of those theories steer away from the victim's wife. But then a lot of theories kind of place blame, perhaps was she tied to this in some way, even if maybe she didn't physically touch the weapon. Could she have had something to do with it? Could she have hired someone? But then I said to Kareem, I said, just like you went through this where you're an innocent person and people are placing blame on you and think you're guilty, she could be going through the exact same thing where she's living under this cloud of suspicion and it was just a lot of coincidental things that just happened to happen that night, and her husband dies and now everyone's blaming her and she's dealing with this her entire life, where she's like, okay, people still think I'm guilty too. So I try to look at it from that perspective for what we've gone through and just say, you know, maybe it was just a real big unfortunate night where things just fell into place the wrong way and now fingers are being pointed towards her. So I don't want to sit here and say I definitely think she did it, but I mean, there are a lot of things that are really questionable that came out that, you know, kind of would, you know, make people think.
So is that like a huge burden lifted?
Definitely. It's I mean, I've been carrying it, well, since 2010, this whole cloud. Right. And of course there's still naysayers, but as far as my involvement with this legal proceedings that finally have that over with, it's definitely a big weight. A weight lifted. I mean, I haven't itemized it, but I'm thinking around 100,000 as far as financially over this past 4 years. Of course, there was a cost emotionally. You know, wondering. I mean, having to contemplate the fact of life in prison.
Have you thought about what you'll tell your son? I mean, will you have to explain this to him one day, or?
Of course. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, this is a big part of our life. I mean, as negative as it is, it's still a part of our life. I mean, especially for me. So there's going to be a point where we're going to have a conversation about law or cops, or we're going to be watching a TV show or a movie, and I'll be able to relate him at this situation. So, of course, I mean, I'll talk to him about this. I mean, no issue, no qualms with that. I'm not mad at Columbus, and some people say, when you leave Columbus, you're probably never going to come back. I don't feel that way. As I explained to y'all, I have a lot of fond memories here. It's just this one incident that we were victorious in. So I don't need to run away from Columbus. I don't need to avoid the friends that I have down here. I don't need to avoid a place where I spend many years. So I don't have a negative feeling toward police. They're just the only two who professionally, I wish could be reprimanded somehow, are Julius Slater and Randy Long. The other district attorneys, the cops, I mean, they're doing their jobs, even the ones that kind of embellished or lied on the stand, whatever. They wouldn't have had to do it if Long and Slater hadn't played their part. We need cops, we need these to get in. You know, there's some nasty people that got to get put away, and they're the ones who do it. So, you know, I just want to leave on a positive note.